Hey, we're back. Another episode of Conversations About God. I'm here with Casey Stagg.
That's Ryan McKenzie.
Dave Bouton's not here right now, so just in honor of him, can you give us your best Dave Bouton impersonation?
It's more of a walk. I do a pretty good Dave Bouton walk, so we'll have to...
Give us a little Dave Bouton.
You kind of...
If you're listening to this on a podcast, go on Facebook or go on YouTube. Check out Northwest Orlando Church in Orlando. Look us up. That's where this is on. And you can see Casey Stagg sitting in a chair pretending to walk like Dave Bouton, who's not here. It's probably the best thing we'll do today.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Well, we're going to do something a little different today. So since Dave isn't here, I had a thought this morning driving into work that I wanted to just interview Ryan and really kind of dive into his story, his life with God, his life without God, and how God intervened and what changed in Ryan's life, his mind, his heart, his actions, everything that changed once he truly experienced the gospel. Because in 1 John, we've been studying about knowing God, right? And it's not just knowing about God, but actually knowing Him, experiencing Him. And you have an incredible story where you knew about God, kind of.
Yeah.
And then you actually knew God. You experienced Him, and everything changed from that point on. So I'm just going to ask Ryan a couple open-ended questions. We'll see where the conversation goes. But he's someone who I've known for years, and he's never pulled any punches, especially when he's talking about himself. He's a very humble guy who wants other people to be encouraged by his story, but also he wants to better the people that he's around. And I know I've greatly been affected by his level of vulnerability, where it frees something up in me when he's willing to be humbled and vulnerable and share his struggles and his shortcomings. And I've been able to truly walk that out where I may not have had the boldness if someone else wasn't willing to do it before me. So I'm looking forward to what this is going to do for the people that listen to this. Hopefully it unleashes something in them, and super excited for it. So
yeah, a little heads up would have been nice, but I mean, this is good. Thank you for that. That's
10 minutes.
10 minutes is all we need.
It's your story.
It's true. It's true.
So, well, let's just open it up. You kind of grew up loosely going to church, knowing about God, kind of in a Christian family.
Yeah. Well, so growing up, I went to I remember one summer, one year, my mom was tired of me and my brother just being awful. So she's like, we're going to church. And we went to a Universalist Unitarian church. And I remember being in elementary school, 4th or 5th grade, and being like, there's a Buddha and a Yoda and a yin yang and a peace sign and some driftwood hanging from the ceiling. And there's a cross and there's some other stuff. I'm like, why are all those things up there where they're talking to us about being good people? It didn't make sense to me. And now I know why, because those things are not compatible with each other, and some of them are just silly, like Yoda. It's silly to worship that. But I remember going there. It's kind of like that's what we did. And then for maybe a year, and then once the summer came, they shut down any kids stuff over the summer. So my mom was like, what the heck? So we left, and we never went back. So very grateful that they shut down stuff over the summer. Otherwise, I might not be here right now. I'd just believe everything is okay and everything is good. But and then a friend of mine invited me to church, Methodist church. When I was in 6th grade, the youth group started for them. And so he was going to choir practice. And he said, hey, I got choir practice tonight and youth group. Do you want to come? And I had not a ton of really good friends. And I was like, sure, I'll go. So we went. I joined the choir just because he went and he drove me. So weird. Yeah. And I'm not a good singer. And then I went to youth group there all through middle school and high school.
Wow.
I had some moments where I kind of felt like I experienced God or felt like He loved me. And some times where I gave my life to Him, like I said, I believe in you, Jesus, kind of things.
Right.
And I just, I was a Christian by name. I don't know that I understood it all.
Yeah.
I had some moments, and that's where it all kind of started.
So both of us work in youth, but you even more being the youth pastor at our church. And you've seen it where kids grow up in church and they have a relationship with God, but when they graduate high school and they kind of leave their bubble or they leave their church, whatever it may be, it seems like the wheels fall off. Is that kind of what happened with you when you graduated high school, or what was high school like with your faith? Was it something that was real, or was it more of like a dualism thing where you were living one thing on the weekends and something different when you were at school?
Yeah, I think like family comes into a big play with that.
Yeah.
And no parent wants to be like controlling of their kid. I don't think any parent does. Like in that way, like make them believe something, because you really can't.
Right.
But my mom and dad weren't Christians. Like I was the only Christian in the house that I called myself a Christian.
Right.
And so anytime I did something wrong, I'd get this like, I thought you were a Christian. Like, didn't turn the light off. I thought you were a good.
That's what they would say to you.
Oh yeah, like
wow.
flat out, like so. And then I was on a baseball team too, so like I had like a dual life going on. Where
Right.
like at school, I wanted to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
So I'd make fun of anybody I could just to be one of the cool kids. So like
Right.
none of the kids that weren't as cool that liked me, and none of the cool kids really liked me. So I'm like stuck in the middle of like making fun of these kids just so I can be like these kids, and I didn't feel like anybody liked me. So that was like, but then I go to church, and I didn't feel like they liked me either, because I wasn't really living this life all the way. Like I was a hypocrite. Like just so. It wasn't when I graduated. I mean, that was bad. It got rough in college.
Yeah.
But my senior year of high school, things got really like rough. I'd go to youth group just to, because it's what I did.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of other things that I shouldn't be doing that like are just not good at all. And back to the family thing, just my parents weren't Christians, but I see, like you say, we see kids like that are raised in the church and parents that don't want to be controlling. So it's like, well, yeah. We lean away from it so much because we want to have grace for our kids, and we want to have want them to figure it out on their own. That like just we're okay them making mistakes and doing what they want, which is going to happen, and they need that. Like they need to make a mistake and be able to repent and come back. But like, I wish I would have had somebody like looking back say, "Hey, this isn't okay. You say you're this, but you're doing this."
Right.
And if my mom or dad would have done that, then maybe we would have gotten in a fight. I don't know, but at least I would have known. Like that they cared about me and they really wanted something to change in me. And like I see that happen a lot now, where we're afraid to make our kids upset and we don't want to like ruin the relationship. So do whatever you want, and I'm just gonna pray. I'm just believing that God's gonna make it all work out. Is like this just big like, I don't know how to. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad if that's how you've experienced as a parent, but like it's just a cop out to me that like it's like. Yes, but he's also put you in charge of them in their life. He's also put you as an influence in their life to have those conversations and to bring those things up and to lead them the right way too. So it's.
I mean, you're a parent. Your kids aren't in high school yet, but this is almost more of a perspective of you were a high schooler once too. If someone would have said that, I wish they would have.
Right? Yeah, I wish they would have.
So it's not like another parent saying do this. You're kind of almost coming from the kid's perspective of like,
side,
please tell, like this would have made a difference in my life. So. Yeah, I can see that same thing, and I hate it. I hate when they leave. It seems good when they're here, but then they leave and they're a totally different person when they come back from college or when they come back after they graduate, whatever. And it's not everyone. Like, it can happen without a doubt, but I feel like their faith is truly tested when they're outside of what they've grown up in, right?
Yeah, if you go, I went away to school. So my faith pretty much went to nothing.
Yeah. So you went to North Carolina, right? Out of state.
I bounced around. Yeah. I had a semester in North Florida community college because I would do anything to play baseball, right? And then I was going to get registered at a community college, so I was like, I'm out of here. So then when I came back home, kind of actually got plugged back into Northwest. At that point, I was like hanging out with Dave Bouton and a small group he was running at Princeton Diner. Like, just went because I had nothing else to do, and I was like learning about God and stuff. So it was like, and then I left because baseball was everything, and so I went to North Carolina. And then came back and went to Rollins, and that's when everything started connecting back here with the church. But
so then, what in your mind, in your life, in your heart, what was God to you? Was He? You never lost faith, never lost your faith in the fact that He existed, but He definitely wasn't real to you.
I didn't become like an atheist or agnostic. I definitely believed there was a God.
Yeah.
But I mean, in James it says even the demons believe that God is real, right? Like they just don't surrender to Him. They don't listen to Him. So I think that's probably the camp I was in.
Yeah.
I think I had the best way I've thought about it, I guess, is like I definitely had God in like this box,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, hey, when I go to church, you can come out, and then we can talk, you know. And but if I'm at school, if I'm with a girl, if I'm with whatever, if I'm going out with friends, then you're in a box in my room, and I will take you out when I want to.
And no one knows about you.
And no one needs to know unless I tell them. And I'm only going to tell people if it makes me look good or if it makes them think I'm a better person. And it was manipulative, and it was like, so I knew stuff about God.
Right.
And I was the good brother, right? Like my younger brother, like he was more honest than me. Honest, like he was a liar and he did some rough stuff, and like, but like he was, the way he acted was at least more honest because like. He didn't believe in God either, and like, but didn't try to act like it.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm the good kid. I don't drink too much or at all, really, and I don't do this and I don't do that. Like, I'm looking good, looking the part, and really, it's just dark in there, you know. And it was not. It's not cool. I think,
What's tough too is, I mean, the Bible talks about being lukewarm, and so meaning either be hot or be cold. So it's like. You reference your brother's life and comparing it to yours, like God would have preferred you to be more like your brother than the lukewarm person that you were, because you weren't hot for him, but you weren't cold. You were just kind of manipulating him, controlling God.
Yeah, it was bad. I actually just reading that verse the other day. My wife and I were reading a book, and Until Unity, Francis Chan book, really, really cool book. But he's talking about that, we're reading that verse, and it says, I'm standing at the door and knocking, and it's like, he's talking about the cold person. Basically, we think lukewarm Christian is like a term. Mm-hmm. And that's what I said that to somebody in middle school or high school. I forget what it was, but there was like I forget who said it. A friend of mine said, you're not one of those like crazy, like on fire for God Christians, are you? And I was like, no, I'm like lukewarm-ish, you know. I'm not like that. I think I said those exact words. I didn't even know what I was saying, and like just how foolish that is, and just so I wouldn't look like I'm some crazy person that loves Jesus. Like that's what all I cared is this kid gonna like me? Yeah. Am I gonna be cool? Like that's all that mattered to me. And but like that verse, Jesus is saying like if there's no such thing as a lukewarm Christian. Like a Christian is someone who is surrendered to me. Right. If you're lukewarm, you're not a Christian. I'm knocking at the door. Let me in. Yeah. Don't be lukewarm anymore. Like that's. So I wish somebody would have. Yeah. So
thankfully, that's not you anymore. So let's kind of dive into what changed and what happened. So kind of walk us through the people God placed in your life, the experiences, the encounters that you had with God that you felt the gospel really come into your life and change everything.
There's so many things. So the big moment was actually at Pastor Dave and Pastor Aslinn's wedding. And I just remember Dave asking me to be one of his groomsmen, and I'm just like, cool. And then I was like, he's a really good guy. I'm not a good guy. We're good friends, but I don't. Okay, I'll do it. I'll be in his wedding, and it was an honor. It was fun, and through that process, though, I just met people that didn't live like I did, and they didn't think like I did, and I remember seeing them. I remember standing at the ceremony. We're lined up, and I'm watching them get married, and it was just this thought in my head was they've saved themselves for each other, and it was no matter what you do, you can't take that back. No matter how good you are, no matter how many things, you can't change that. And it clicked for the first time that no matter what I did, I couldn't change what I've done. And I don't know, I always had this thought of I'll be good. I'll be good, and then I'll make up for it. I remember praying to God, saying, if I just do this, will you help me get this? And it was always this trade-off, and I would pray stuff like that. And that was this moment, it clicked, that I can't make up for that. I can't take that back. And I'm going to have to tell my wife that one day. And sorry. And so it wasn't this emotional moment right then, but it was just you got to change. Yeah. And so I remember standing there watching them get married. I have no idea what they said or what Pastor Mark said or anything. I was just you got to change. And so I was okay, I'm going to change. And then I walked back down the aisle, and as we're leaving the wedding, and I'm holding, Grace Lynch is on my right arm as I'm walking down. I was she's amazing.
had you met her before that?
Yeah, we met through the wedding and at Rollins a little bit here and there,
Okay.
like just sporadic conversation, and like kind of hit it off like good for. I'm just like I realized like as we were walking down out from their wedding, I was like, this is the kind like I've never been interested in a girl who really loved Jesus. It was always just, what are they going to give me? What are they going to do for me? And this was like someone who I'm like, how can I be like her? She doesn't need me.
Yeah.
I want to be like her, how she loves Jesus. Like that was like the most incredible thing ever to me. So knowing her and watching them get married, like changed my life in a big way. And I don't know.
Man, what a such a foundational truth to realize that you can't save yourself, right? Like only Jesus could take that sin that you've committed for years.
Yeah.
And it's washed away only by the blood of Christ, only by the cross, and not one work, not one thing you could say. None of that would ever fix that. Solely by the miracle of the justice of God being met, but also mercy being poured out at the same time. And you got that. Like every believer has to have that as a foundational truth. And it was like, sounds like the first foundational truth you had, where you realized you couldn't save yourself. Like you had to have total reliance on God. And
there's nothing like, there's no message that I remember. Maybe there was some really convicting message. I don't remember. I just remember thinking like, I can't stand up at my wedding day and say what they're saying. Yeah. And like it was just like, wow. Yeah. So their righteousness really convicted me. Right. And
but that was one particular sin you were talking about or thinking about, but it's like across the board, everything you've ever committed, and you're kind of keeping score in your mind of like, well, I just need to outweigh my good with my bad, right? Yeah. Where that's the furthest thing from the faith. Yeah. We can never save ourselves regardless of what we do. So what a foundational truth to get from like day one that has only grown in you since then, right?
Well, I remember, this is the next Sunday. I don't know how long their honeymoon was, because Dave was at church when this happened. So if it was the next Sunday, if they were back or they hadn't left yet, I don't know. But I remember going, like, there was like, I don't have no idea what the message was, but it was like, if you need Jesus, you need to come down here right now. And so I'm like, I'm coming. Like, and I walked down, like, just crying. And Dave was there, and we hugged, and I just was weeping. And I'm like, I gotta confess some things to you, man. Like, you think I'm this guy, and you think I had like this fake. Like, he was my friend that like I acted good around because it would get me like I thought it would like make me look better for him. You know, I had other friends I would not good around. You know. Yeah. I was like, I'm not this guy you think I am. He's like, I know. I was like, what?
You thought you were fooling him.
Yeah, I think that's even in John chapter 3. Where this week is like, we're not nearly as good at it as we think we are. That's like basically what he's saying. Yeah. And it's like, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done this, and I've done that, and I just like started listing everything I could think of, and just said, I've done all of these things, and I want nothing to do with it anymore, and I don't know what to do because it's like ruined. I can't. Yeah. And he's like, I know. And I was like, what do you mean you know? He's like, God loves you. I was like, what do you mean God loves me? Like, how could he love me? Like, I was just like, I just remember hugging him and crying and being like, what do you mean? How could he love me? Like, what do you mean? Yeah. And like, it just, and he prayed for me, and I was like, Jesus, I'm yours. I'll do whatever you want. And like, I don't know. I went on an encounter at the church, and I just wept even more. And I went on another. I just like all these times at group and encounters and meeting with people and talking about like my life and being like you said, open about things like. I just kind of made up my mind. I was manipulative my whole life. Like, I just like, I don't care if it makes me look bad anymore. I'm going to just admit to stuff. And like, as much as I can, because I'm done with like, not being, like, being a Christian, but not knowing Jesus, you know? Like, that is, like, I don't want it. Yeah.
In that life of, all right, how do I act with these? It's just so inconsistent, so fake. So your pendulum swung the exact opposite, and you're like, this is me regardless what people think, regardless. So there were some awkward moments, right? Some tough moments, because you were still in college at that time playing baseball.
Between my junior and senior year, that summer. Right. But I'm like...
But you were bold with your faith.
Going to be one of the captains on the team, essentially. Like, or there's guys that are better than me, but like I was a starting shortstop. You know, so it was like between my junior and senior year, I'm like, everything changed. Yeah. And then it got weird. It's like I came back to school and people are like, Mackenzie, you joined a cult? What's wrong with you? Like, it's like not because I was preaching at him or anything. I just stopped cussing. Like I didn't cuss him. Yeah. Everyone's like, mother. And I'm like, I just was like, dang. Like it just had. I used to cuss nonstop. Like that would.
But an immediate change, like
I
evident
didn't
change.
desire it anymore.
Right.
I didn't even want to. Like
Right.
it was like crazy.
Yeah.
So that was awkward.
So I love that you bring that up because referencing the sermon from Sunday, it says the world will hate you. It doesn't say they might hate you. It says don't be surprised when the world hates you.
Right.
So we look at why they may hate you. Now, they were still your friends. You were on the baseball team with them, but something flipped in them. And you started living one way, and it started almost exposing something in there. Now, they could have hated you for different reasons. I don't know why, but in the group I attend, we were talking about what is it about Christians that makes the world hate us? And one thing that we said is there's like an internal shame, or if you see someone living the right way and you know deep down you're not living the right way, you tend to not like that person. You tend to not be, because it exposes something in you.
I remember feeling like that.
Right.
Like, part of me, like when I wasn't living for God and I was calling myself a Christian or thought I was a good person, like there's part of me that was like, I want to be that free.
Right.
And there's other parts of me like, shut the heck up.
Right.
I don't want to hear your crap because it makes me feel bad because I'm doing crap. So like, I'm like, yes, I want to be with you. And then other parts are like there's this internal battle of like, so yeah, stuff like that happened all the time. Like, I remember, so you're in college and you meet people and you meet girls and you put number in there, you get numbers, and like Facebook was like only college people at that time. So like, I'm like deleting people, canceling friends off of things, like people like that I only met because there's only one reason that I wanted to have their number, and there's only one reason I wanted to talk to them, and I would only text them at certain times of the day because there's something right. So I deleted every number of anybody that I had for the wrong reason in my phone, which looking back I needed that, and like at the same time I'm like, man, I needed it, so I'm glad I did that. But like, I'm really glad I did that. But like, there's like so many people I could have like reached out to and said, "Come along with me," you know. But like, there's certain people that I'm glad I didn't try to reach out to because I would have fallen right back into sin again, really hard. Yeah. And I would get text messages from random numbers that I deleted. That I didn't know who they were. Hey, want to hang out? Delete. Hey, why aren't you responding to my text? Delete. I didn't even like. I wasn't even trying to like. This makes me sound like a jerk, maybe, but I wasn't even trying to explain myself. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't care. Like I started this relationship for the wrong reason. We're not really that close anyway. So in my mind, I'm like, it's just that
slam the door.
Like close friends, I didn't just cut people out of my life. It wasn't like but like, and then I'd get like, I thought we were friends. You're such a jerk. Like just like these like all of a sudden it turned angry and mean, and I would just delete, and like I had yearbook. This is like, I had yearbooks from high school where I would like have people's numbers and I'd call. I'd just open the yearbook and call them up and like whatever, try to find parties or whatever else going on. I put them in a box in my dad's driveway, lit them all on fire, and like I was like, I'm done with this. Like I don't want to go back to anything who I was, and it was just so it was a little intense, right? Like it's my personality maybe, but like I'm not going back.
Right.
And it's hard. It was. If I really believe for me, if I hadn't have done that, I would have found the way my mind works. I'm always looking for a loophole or find a way into something like that, and I would have found a way back to my sin if I hadn't cut that out like that.
Okay, so I want to ask you one last question. I love your vulnerability and how it was immediate. Like the gospel became real to you. It wasn't just something you knew about, but it was something where God infiltrated your life and everything changed. And so he's working, but at the same time, his church is working with you and on you and people loving you. So I want you to kind of expound upon how integral the church was in this time where you're cutting people out of your life. You said you kept some close friends around, but truly you got...
I didn't quit the baseball team. I didn't drop out of school. I had friends, but like the stuff that I knew was going to pull me back into sin.
Right.
I was like,
so you had to fill all that same time with new people, new things, right? You're pursuing a girl at the same time, so that took up some time, but at the same rate you dove headfirst into the church, and I want you to kind of talk about what that was like and what the church did for you there.
So part of it, I did make, like Grace and I became friends, and it was really, I was like, man, I just want to be around this person. She loves Jesus more than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And there was like a beach trip where the sellers were going down to some condo or something. They're like, you want to come with us? And I was like, sure. I didn't know anybody that was going.
Right.
And I was like, I'll go with all these people from the church. And I went, and I remember seeing Grace there, and she just got up one morning and like went out and read her Bible and had a guitar and like went off by herself somewhere and was like just singing not for anyone. She didn't know anyone was I was like creepily watching her right now. Sounds so bad.
Your vulnerability, dude.
But I was like, I've never seen anybody do anything like that. I guess now like I realize that should be a normal thing that you read your Bible. But like I was like,
it was foreign to you.
People actually open this thing? People actually read this? This is crazy. This is amazing. Yeah. I didn't know that was an option. Like I thought you kept it on your nightstand, and when someone came over that you didn't want to see it, you just put it away so you didn't feel guilty. That's how I felt. That's how I used my Bible. That was bad.
Yeah.
But then getting in small group, like going over to David Aslin's, like they would have me over. Like they took me out. They went on a date, and I went on a date with them, like to hang out with them. I'm like, guys, you're married. Like, why am I here? And like, we love you. I was like, you're our friend. I was like, this is insane. Like, thank you. I just felt so like part of their family, and then being in a group with you, like I don't know. I've heard so many people say like, well, I need a group where everyone else is in the same season as me. Like, no one in this group has kids, or no one in this group is married, or no one in this group has the same type of job I have, or no one in this group is as young as me or as old as me. Or parents say that my kid needs to be in a group where everyone is older or younger, and like we put that thought in our head enough, and then all of a sudden you start nitpicking every situation that like no one's ever in the same spot as you enough, so you never feel close enough with people, so you can't be vulnerable and you can't have a good group. Right. And I remember I didn't even realize it, but looking back at the group that we were in with Dave, it was like there's middle schoolers in that group, there was high schoolers, I was about to graduate college, or I just graduated college or whatever it was, and everything in between. So from middle school to 22 years old, like it was like, and I don't think I ever once thought like,
this is weird,
or that's a middle schooler, or that's a like. I was like, we all love Jesus, and we're here to try to figure out how we can help other people love Jesus. And it was the coolest time. Yeah, that was the best thing ever. They're just brothers. You know, it was all it was. It was just like we want to love God more, and I don't care if. How old were you when I was 21? You were 15, maybe? Is that 14. Like 14, 15? So like it was like, I don't think I ever thought twice that you were in high school. Right. It was just like, it's Casey. This is what we do. Yeah. So I probably treated you like I thought you were a grown man. Just like what the heck are you doing?
You bought me beer that one time. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That was a joke.
But it was so special to me because it was like, we just love Jesus and we're just going to be together. And there's times when we're praying with each other and for each other, and like laying on the ground crying and praying. There's times where like, I specifically remember a Friday night where we had a worship night at the church, and it was just like music from an iPod and words on a screen. And I remember looking around, there's like 34 people in the room, and we're just worshiping and praying. Yeah. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, I like this. Yeah. Why do I like this? Like, this is Friday night, and I'm at a church at 9 o'clock at night just singing. Like, this is not how my life was a year ago. Like, this is insane. So that stuff is special. It's precious to me.
So that was early on, and then you quickly got on the offense, right? Where you started sharing your faith, you started serving, you started taking it outside of just you. Yeah. And truly, like, that's one thing I think I loved the most about our group was everyone was in it. We were all serving, stumbling through it, like not knowing what we were doing, but at least we were doing something, right? And helping each other out every week, praying for one another, encouraging one another, talking about our victories and talking about where we had an awkward moment sharing our faith, or where we screwed up or did something dumb. But at the end of the day, we were still doing something, right?
So many dumb things.
Right, but like awkward conversations and trying and working through it versus trying to get it all figured out first and then saying, all right, now let's go do it. Yeah. It was like on the job training type thing. We were all new Christians, and it was something that was alive in us. Yeah. And we wanted other people to have that same experience. So what was that? How critical was that to not just consume it and not just experience it for yourself, but what did it do for your faith to then take it outside of your house, take it outside of church? What did it do for you?
That's everything. Yeah. Right? Like, I don't know that you can put like what point was more important. Obviously, surrendering is the most important thing. Right. But like, if you don't go and do anything with it, and you just think, well, now I need to learn enough. are you really surrendered? You know, because like anybody can like sit there and learn enough until they feel confident and then they go, but that's still on your terms, on your time. If you're surrendered to Christ and he's asking you to go, then you just go and you just trust him that he's going to give you enough, you know? Like, so that was huge for me. I feel like the group that we have now is a lot like that, where there's like, some people are like, have learned a lot. Some people are brand new Christians, and it's just like, let's just go. Let's just do it. Let's figure it out. Let's make it happen. So that's really cool. When you're just saying that, I just got excited about it. My wife has a group. It's just really cool. And, but yeah, there's like, it changed everything when you just like are willing to just go and try it. And then like, remember like even as early as my senior year of college, I was inviting guys on the baseball team to come to small group. And like, hey, come on out. It's great. We're talking about this tonight. Or just come on out. And like, so we got one or two guys to come here and there. And the coach actually pulled me aside and said, hey, don't bring that Christianity crap in my locker room anymore. And I was like, I'm not. What do you mean? And he's like, you can believe whatever you want, but you can't bring that. You don't bring your Bibles in here. Don't talk about Jesus in here. It divides teams. I don't need this team divided. And I was like, it's all I know. Like I can't. Yeah. Like Coach, I can't play for you if you're telling. I remember like in tears. I looked at him. He walked away, and then like that night I called up Dave. I'm like praying. I talked to Grace. I'm like, he wants me to like not talk about Jesus in here. So I'm like crying. I'm like, this is my dream to play college baseball. Like I had to give it up. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go tomorrow and I'm gonna tell him, Coach, I can't do that. And if that means I'm not on your team, I can't be on your team. But I really want to be on your team. But I can't give up talking about Jesus. Like I'm not gonna make anybody listen to me. I'm not gonna yell at them. But if they want to talk about it, I'm not stopping. Right. And he was like, I said all that to him. And he's like, all right, well just don't make it a big deal. I was like, so I can still talk about it here and be on the team. He's like, yeah, but just don't, you know. I was like, okay. So I walked out like he had no words. Like he's like, who is this? I was like,
but you didn't leave any room for gray area. You're like, no. I need you to tell me I can still talk about it.
I was like, because if you don't, then I'm not on this team. Right. If that's the rule you're having, then I'm willing to be done. Yeah. And he had another kid he wanted to play. Like first game of the season, another kid played shortstop. So I was on the bench senior year. He made 5 errors that game. I came in the last 3 innings and never came back out again. Yeah. It was like, so I was like, never wanted the whole way through. But anyway,
but you drew a line in the sand.
I had to. Yeah. Like I felt like I had to. But stuff like that happened all the time. Like I've told you a story with study hall when like I got done with like anybody who had bad grades. I'm a senior. I'm passing my classes. I'm not going on to a master's degree. What are bad grades don't exist,
getting a
right?
Degree, right?
So like I did degrees. Whatever.
He's good degrees.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm not get good grades, kids. It's good. But I finished my stuff. I pulled out a Bible. I start reading it, and he comes in. He starts screaming at me. Put that Bible in here because your grades suck. Well, effing this. I was like, I put it away and looking around. Everyone else in the room had their books out, but they're just taking shots of tequila the whole time. Wow. And I'm just like, they're looking at me like, don't rat us out. And I'm just like staring. I'm like, this is some garbage right here. This is some. But anyway, there's stuff like that all the time. Like it was. Anyway,
man. I appreciate your vulnerability, and you're not one that's going to boast about yourself ever. But I want to tell you, like, your life has been crucial with my walk with God and in my faith, and I've seen that multiply, like, truly, where you made some tough decisions early on. God affected your life, and you don't even realize the multitude of people who have been affected. Like, my family has been saved and changed because of you, and your vulnerability, your boldness, and allowing God to work in your heart. And I'll forever be grateful for that. And I'm even more excited to know that it's just not my family that's been affected and changed for eternity, mind you, but so many families within our church, so many families outside of our church, and many, many more to come. So I just want to say I love you. I'm so glad that you have allowed God to change your life, that you've been obedient to what he's called you to do, and that you haven't kept your faith to yourself. So thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
See you.